Such a great opportunity. And our executive director of our foundation office is also here with us. Pete, I don't know if you want to say a hello before I launch into my presentation.
Sure. Hi, everybody. As Andrea mentioned, Pete Stinson, Executive Director for Twilight Wish. I'll let Andrea kind of tell everybody what we do, but we are a national organization and we grant special wishes and dreams to seniors. So, Andrea, take it away. Tell them all the great things that we do.
Okay. So Twilight Wish is a foundation. It's obviously a nonprofit, and we are privately funded. So there's no cost for the wishes to our seniors or to the facilities that they're in, if they're in a facility or if they're at home. And the wishes are really anything can be a wish that's important to someone. And I think that's really sort of the biggest sticking point when we talk about wishes with people that work in facilities and places with seniors. Seniors don't put in wishes for themselves. They don't ask for much, right? If you ask them what they need or what they want, they'll say, I'm all set. Give it to somebody who really needs it. So the wishes that we get most often are from people who know and love the seniors, people who work with them, people, their family members, their friends, people who know what would make their lives better or make them happy, or something that they really need. A lot of our wishes are need based, right? Our residents and people are on fixed incomes. So upgrades to like a hearing aid or a lift chair or a motorized scooter, things like that, that it's just not available for them. We grant those kind of need wishes. Things like beds, like basic things that you wouldn't even think seniors would want or need. Um, and then we have wishes that celebrate life, things that are on their bucket list that they could never do for themselves, right? Based on transportation or finances, if they want to get to a family reunion or they want to see a Red Sox game or whatever it is, big or small. And I think people kind of overthink wishes all the time too. They want it to be this really big, spectacular moment. And a lot of our most meaningful wishes are really the simplest wish that is just a life changer for the person that's getting it. I'll give you a couple of examples so you know what I'm talking about. We had a woman who lived here in Connecticut, and her sister, she grew up in New Jersey. And her and her sister spoke every night. They were in their 80s, and they used to get together all the time when the family would converge in New Jersey. But as everybody got older, that became less and less. So her wish was to go to New Jersey to see her sister and go out to lunch. And so we put her in a limo and we sent her to New Jersey with some flowers for her sister. And they got the limo picked them up. They cruised around the neighborhood and checked out, what's changed over the years. They went to a nice lunch at their favorite restaurant, and then we drove the sister back home. And the next day, when I called to see how the wish was and what her thoughts were, she was actually crying and she said, I just want you to know I never thought I would see my sister alive again. She said, I thought we were both, one of us or both of us would have passed away without actually seeing each other in person. And you made that happen. And for me, it was a really an eye opener because the ability to do that for someone, right? To make that sort of an experience happen for someone is unbelievable. And I think that we do that at Twilight Wish all the time. And so we really need your help to sort of get the word out to the facilities and the people who really help our seniors every day on a daily basis. What can we do? The actual mission of Twilight Wish is to make the world a better place to age, one wish at a time. And the places that we have chapters, we have people that go out and do presentations and talk about Twilight Wish. Our foundation office is in Pennsylvania. We started in Pennsylvania, and the foundation is 23 or 24 years old now. And we have about 26 chapters. So it has grown. But the more that we tell people like you and you tell your people, the bigger it can get. We also do group wishes, so wishes for a particular facility. I had a woman write in for a wish. Her mother was in a facility. She loved the facility. It was a great facility, had nothing but great things to say about it, except for the community room. The community room had a tiny television. And they actually used to have to move residents around so they could see it and hear it. That's how tiny it was. So her wish was to put in a big screen in the community room. And so that's what we did. We got them a smart TV. So not only could they watch TV, they could play hangman and karaoke and all sorts of fun things that really helped the whole community. And it's fun. It's sort of a learning curve, I think, for all of us, especially the volunteers that that volunteer for Twilight Wish, because it's all volunteers. All the chapters, all the people that work in the chapters and help grant wishes in the states are all volunteers. Our only paid employees are in our foundation office. And so that speaks a lot about the mission and about really what a win-win it is. And we also have a lot of community partners that um, give us in-kind donations of services or products that help us make the wishes sort of a little bigger and a little more special. Um, but I think for those of us that grant wishes and that are part of it, it's also a really big education about the senior space. And you all know that because you work there. But I think for a lot of people, to understand what it's like at that stage of your life, right? And people talk about, we grant wishes, and our priority is obviously low income seniors that don't have the ability to pay for things and extras. But I've also granted wishes to people who aren't low income seniors. One of our most famous wishes was a woman who was in a pretty nice facility, um, and she wanted to pet a penguin, and she couldn't leave the facility because she was 104. And so we had to bring the penguin to her. And certainly that's not anything that was in my wheelhouse. So I had to sort of investigate, how do you do that? Do they even do that, right? I call the local aquarium, and they said, yeah, we do, but it's kind of, we do it for teaching purposes or whatever. It's pretty expensive. You have to have like a refrigerated truck that brings them, and then like a refrigerated kind of playpen, and it's a pricey endeavor, which they ended up paying for in the end. So it was great. That made it a bonus. But um, that this woman, this was her wish before she passed away, and her healthcare provider put it in, and her family didn't even know that this was her wish. Like, they didn't know she wanted to pet a penguin. They didn't know. Only the people that she sort of lived with and knew her on a day-to-day basis knew that. So, but I think we all feel at Twilight Wish that at some point in the aging process, no matter if you have resources, you don't have resources, every day becomes the same, right? You have limitations, and every day, no matter where you are, becomes the same. And Twilight Wish is sort of, again, the mission is to just make the world a better place, to make that person's day a better in making one of their dreams or wishes come true. So, but again, it does give us a lot of awareness about seniors, which we try to pass on as part of the wish granting process too. I had a wish for a very simple wish. It was a wish for someone who was a couple that used to go to the shore all the time when they were mobile, and they would go for lobster dinners. And they were now both had some serious I guess handicaps, and they were living upstairs in their daughter's house, and they didn't go out other than to go and do their doctor's appointments. And so their neighbor, who knew them for years, said, I'd really love you to bring them a lobster dinner. I think that would mean a lot to them. And so I did all my legwork. I was very proud of myself. I got the pans and the crackers and the bibs and the melted butter, and I foil pans. I wrap it all up. I bring it over there on a Friday, like 4 o'clock, spread it out on their table. They had put in a request for some crab legs too. I got those. Melted the butter, took the photo op. Everything's good. I'm good to go. And they're just looking at me. And I'm like, what am I missing? And I'm looking around, and then I'm like, geez, did they think I was going to be having dinner with them? And I'm like, oh, I really got to go and, make dinner for my family, sort of thing. And they were just sort of looking at me, and I'm like, is everything okay? And they're like, no. And they just held up their hands, which were riddled with arthritis. And they're like, we can't crack these. And I was like, oh, like I had thought of everything, or so I thought from my perspective, but not from a senior perspective. What else did they need as part of this wish? They needed me to crack all. They needed me to put it all on the table for them. And so I did. I spent the next hour and I had, lobster shrapnel all over me and we were good to go. They were all set. And again, I go to leave and they're just looking at me. And I said, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" And they were like, "Yeah, the garbage doesn't go downstairs until Wednesdays. So this will have to like stay here." And I was like, "Oh, all right. So I'll take all that back with me." So I had packed up all the shells and the garbage and took it. But it was a huge awareness for me that this is a whole different perspective, even on this meal. And I deal with seniors and consider myself really aware, but there is so much about seniors and what they go through and where they are that we don't realize. So I think any awareness that we could give to be part of this is really actually helpful as well as granting the wishes. The other awareness I had was the very wish that was the pet a penguin. My one job, I had one job on that wish. I had to stay at the door and wait for the woman's um, grandma, granddaughter and daughter. And so I had my name tag on. I'm at the door, and people are coming and going. And there was a lot of news crews that came to film it, and it's getting towards time and there's nobody's coming in, they're not coming in. So finally the coordinator comes out to get me and she's like, "Come on, it's going to start, you need to come in, you missed them." And I'm like, "I missed them, I haven't moved, like I've been here, I haven't, how could I miss them? This is my post." And I felt terrible, but when I walked in the room and saw them sitting next to the woman, the woman was 104, which I wasn't really factoring in my head. So her daughter was in her 80s and walked right by me with a walker like an older person would, but I was kind of expecting her to be younger because it was her daughter and her granddaughter. So I totally missed really like how old she was and how long and how old her kids were, and her granddaughter was well in her 60s. And so I was like, wow, okay. But I think that for all of us to sort of pause and look at our seniors differently is a good thing, is a healthy thing. Um, but again, back to wishes for a minute. Um, People that put wishes in for other people, we also try to like make them part of the wish. So if there's a way that we can have family members or other people who would enjoy the senior enjoying the wish, we try to add them to the wish as well. Um, and wishes that start off sort of simple. I think a lot of times people look for a big wow wish, right? They want to have this really big moment, this really big wish for people. But the wishes that turn out to be really the big wows are the simple wishes. And we had a veteran who was turning 100, and his healthcare worker put in the wish because she said he has nobody to celebrate with. He's turning 100 and he's a great guy. He's lived a great life, but he's outlived his family and friends. And I want to do something for his birthday. I want somebody to celebrate it, but I don't know what to do. So I called the town where he lived in his whole life and at the mayor's office and said, "Can you give him a proclamation or something to celebrate his birthday?" And they said, "Sure. Oh, sure. We'll have a little cake too. We'll have the office staff in. Sure. So we set a date. And a couple days later, I get a call from the local VFW. And they were like, "Hey, we heard about your wish. Can we come?" Sure. And then a couple days later, I heard from the Boy Scouts who were making 100 birthday cards. And then there was an Eagle Scout who wrote a poem about them. And then the local quilters were making them a red, white, and blue quilt. And by the time the wish happened, we had to have it on the green in town because there was like 65 people that were there, and they were all celebrating this person they didn't even know. And it was a huge wish. Again, it was on the news, it was a big deal, and it didn't cost one dime. Everything was donated, and everybody that was there either wrote to us or became one of our volunteers. They were so moved by what the simple gesture of bringing people together. And I think that's the other thing that Twilight Wish does really well. It brings people together. It gives people an opportunity to use their gifts and talents, whatever those are, right? The quilters, it was the quilting. The local high school band that played, you know, uh, patriotic songs, that was their gift. Everybody brought that to the Wish and really enhanced the Wish and made it pretty spectacular. So I think that's also part of what Twilight Wish brings to seniors in general. Um, I could go on with a million different examples, but I just want to, does anybody have any questions or about sort of you would apply online. The application process is online. We do print applications for people that can't do that. And a lot of times healthcare people will assist with helping people to put in a wish or put in a wish for someone. And it goes to the foundation office in Pennsylvania. And they have the wish granting committee approves it once they have all the info they need. And then it comes back to be to the chapters locally. So it would come to me in Connecticut and they would say, make it happen. And the local chapter would actually go about the business of getting the resources and putting the wish together and then ultimately granting the wish. And the granting of the wish involves, you know, a certificate and a little celebration by the volunteers that are granting the wish. Um, what
Right. Yeah. Can you talk, is there a radius that a person has to live to a chapter?
there isn't necessarily a radius, right? Our chapters, you can go online and look at where our 26 chapters are. But I'm in Connecticut and we have a Rhode Island chapter and no other chapters in New England. And so a New Hampshire wish came in and so I took that wish and granted that wish. And if there's no chapter in a particular area where a wish is submitted, the headquarters would help to manage the wish. They would help, even though there's not a chapter in that particular area, if it's, you know, at all humanly possible to make that wish happen, they would go about the details of doing that. So the answer is no, you don't really have to be within a certain radius. You would put in the wish and we would kind of figure out who'd be the closest and best person to sort of fulfill that wish for you. But we're also always looking for people willing to open chapters in areas of the country. So that's also something for you to think about if you see someone or know someone or two people, right? Two people who can teach, you know, co co-direct a chapter in an area where you are. That's always something that we're looking for as well. I think as an organization, as a foundation, Twilight Wish does a really good job of making it easy for people to be volunteer chapter directors. Right when I found out about Twilight Wish, I actually saw a news story. And after I saw the news story, I was like, oh, that's fun. I'm gonna, you know, look them up and that'd be a great organization to volunteer for. And when I realized that there wasn't a chapter in our area, I, of course, said what everybody would say. I'm living a full life. I got enough to do. I can't open a chapter. But the concept of what they do and what the mission is kind of stayed with me. So I ended up starting the chapter, and forgot where I was going with that. Sorry.
You opening up your chapter?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. So what made me finally say yes was when I really asked about what it takes to open a chapter and what it takes to manage a chapter. A lot of what I didn't want to do and what is really the hard stuff, right? The bank accounts and the money and the tax returns and all that, they take care of. You all you have to do is manage what it is you spend your wishes in your particular area. So that made it a much more you know, attractive role to take on. And again, all of the things that you need to be successful, they provide you with and help you with and support you with once your chapter's open and once you have, because there's things that come up that you have never seen or would not have thought you'd see. So they're a great support system as well for the chapter directors. So that's a big help as you know, if someone is thinking about. And if you have somebody who's thinking about it or would be interested, a lot of times people that work in hospice or people that work in particular areas where they see and have exposure to seniors all the time are like, oh yeah, this would be great. Encourage them to call us or call Pete or me or, go on the website because, all it takes is a conversation or two to give them all the details that they would like. Now, I'm not looking at the chat.
That's
Are there, Sarah, are there questions in the chat?
Yeah, yeah, and that one that I asked was in the chat.
Okay.
Peter also addressed another question. Thank you, Peter. But perhaps you want to talk a little bit more about it. Just a clarification question. Is only open to nursing home residents or senior housing residents as well? And Peter addressed that it's open to all older adults within qualification, and then put the link in the chat there to look at specific qualifications. But do you want to talk any further about those specific qualifications?
Yeah, I mean the qualifications are 65 or older, which again, we make exceptions to that if there are people that are in facilities or people that have medical issues that, put them in that space. We've granted wishes. There's exceptions to that. I wouldn't discount anybody's wish based on the qualifications. If you really want to know that before you put in an application, call one of us and ask. And as soon as you put in an application, someone will contact you from the foundation office. And so you'll get in contact with somebody who's right there who, can give you the answers that you want. But I definitely wouldn't let that be a deterrent for somebody. We've also we're also have granted a lot of wishes for people in hospice, which is a whole kind of different um, set of circumstances, right? You need a lot of those wishes need to happen really fast. And like you all know, stuff that we give and offer to seniors is a lot of times really, really labor intensive. Got to jump through a lot of hoops. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of lead time. Twilight Wish is really good at moving that stuff forward in getting through that, which I think is why a lot of the hospice places contact us. I had one just a little while ago with a woman who was dying, and she was at home in hospice, and she had a couple of days left to live, and her husband was disabled, and he was in a facility. He was in a healthcare facility. So they needed him to be transported, a medical transport, to get him from his facility to home to say goodbye to her, and then back to his facility. And so his children had put in for that to happen through insurance. And insurance told them that it would take 10 days to clear that they couldn't do that in any shorter time than 10 days, which she didn't have 10 days. So they called us and said, can you make that happen faster? And we said, we'll try. And we did. He ended up getting to see her before she passed away. So a lot of the sort of things with time constraint on the end of the hospice wishes, we also are able to get around that quicker. So that's a nice option too.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for addressing that. Any other questions or comments from anyone joining today?
I do just want to add that some of our group wishes um, there's two types of group wishes. There's group wishes where we come in and do something in the facility, like a spa day, and we do nails or we do stuff like that and have a little party. Um, or there's wishes where we take them out of the facility and take, 10 or 15 of them on a boat trip and a lunch and back to the facility that are the ones that are able to do that. So there's a lot of possibilities based on the need of the audience that you sort of are looking at, whether again it be people that are in a facility or individuals who are inside or outside or wherever they are. And if you are thinking about it, go on the website. Connecticut has a website, the foundation office has a website. There's a lot of examples of wishes that have already been granted that sometimes give you, they kind of spur like, oh yeah, that would be great, or oh, I know this resident, yeah, would like that. And I think that sometimes gives you the, oh, what about this person? A lot of times just asking the staff too, like, does anybody know anybody who, you know, has something special that would mean a great deal to them? And again, it could be them going out, but it also could be somebody coming in or bringing a family member or, something like that, um, to sort of enhance their life.
That's great. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about just the power of media and how that can play a role? So often, older adults are so negatively portrayed within the media. I think this is just an excellent way to showcase the amazing work that's happening for older adults in our communities. You talked about, the communities coming together to
Right.
make a wish happen. Can you talk a little bit more about the power that that has?
Right. We have, I don't know, in Connecticut here, we had, his name is Jerry Brooks, and he was a retired NBC newscaster. And he actually came out of retirement to be our spokesperson because he said, I was looking for something to get me out of retirement that was worthwhile. He said, and you guys are it. And he actually helped us get into NBC locally to be a sponsor of our wishes and to help us with some media. And when they agreed to partner with us, they asked me, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, I actually just have one question. My question is, what's in this for you? You're a business. I know what's in it for us. We're a nonprofit and you're going to put us out there. So that's just a home run for us. But what is it that is in it for you? And he said to me, well, to be honest with you, it's a growing demographic, right? People are living longer. He's like, they watch the most TV. They see us all the time. He said, and there's not a lot of positive stories we could say and present about seniors. He said, it's not glamorous to age. There's nothing fun about it. He said, but you're bringing us these positive stories that we could put out there that make everybody feel good. I mean, I think that's the whole thing about Twilight Wish. It's like the feel good moment when we are giving back to our seniors in a way that's tangible, that people can see, that people can appreciate. And I think the media loves that. I think they really do. And so we send out press releases anytime there is a wish that's being granted, unless the family or the person objects to that. The press releases go out, and the media can pick and choose when they want to come. And a lot of times it's based on what else is going on in the news and in the world. But um, when they come, every time they come, they're floored by the actual experience of having to being part of granting this wish for a senior. We had a gentleman who was 100 and something, and he wanted to give back to his community, so he painted rocks, and he gave the rocks to this local cafe, and they put them out in a basket that said, and they had all sort of positive, uplifting, have a nice day, you are loved, and you know and he asked if anybody wanted to, if they could leave a note what they were going to do with their rock or what the rock meant to them. And he continuously, week after week. So the wish was for more rocks and more paints. That was his wish, so that he could paint more and get more of them out there. But when we went to grant the wish, the news crew came locally, and he pulled out for them a book of all these people that had contacted him through an email or through a card, thanking him for the rock and what the rock actually did. Someone was a recovering alcoholic, and they picked up a rock that said "keep going" and "you are loved," and he had all these stories and these letters from these people thankful for his rock. And so the news reporter that was there, after we left and they did the wish granting part, he stayed and interviewed him and did a follow up on him because he was so amazed that the senior, like the backstory to that, like what did you do before this? How did you, who were you? What? And so it became a really big deal. And I think, again, just the whole awareness that all these amazing seniors have had lives before this and have contributed and donated and made the world what it is today. And, what are we doing about that? How are we celebrating that? And this gives everybody a way to sort of celebrate that in big ways or small ways. We just had a wish here in Connecticut of a woman who started painting at 80 years old. She always wanted to try it, never did. She was in a facility and she said, now I want to, now's when I'm going to start. And so she was a pretty good painter. She had a lot of paintings, and her wish was to have her paintings displayed somewhere. They had already displayed them at the facility, and she was happy about that, but she wanted the outside world, as she put it, to see her artwork. And so we got a local library that had an art show for her, and they came in and had the local art league give her a certificate. And she gave a little speech, and we had a breakfast, and she gave a little speech, and she said, I want everybody here to know that age is just a number and being a senior is just a label. And labels should only be on cans and bottles. They shouldn't be on people, because as a senior, you can do whatever you want to do and don't let that stop you. And at the end, she gave all of her artwork away to everybody who was there because she wanted it to be out in the world and shared and appreciated. And I think, again, just giving our seniors the opportunity to know that they still have an impact on the people around them and they still matter. That's the whole story of the founder. She started the whole foundation because she saw some seniors pooling their money in a restaurant, um, and paid for the bill. And one of the seniors went to thank her and said, and she was kind of like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And they were like, it is a big deal. When you become our age, you become invisible, right? People don't see you, they don't recognize you. Never mind, do something like that for you. That's wonderful. So I think that also Twilight Wish puts that on the radar for people, which I think we all need to do, right? That's the one thing you can, any organization, any nonprofit doing wonderful things is great. But I think Twilight Wish is really the great equalizer because everyone is going to age. That, I mean, unless you pass away, everyone is going to age. That's the one thing we all share in common. So, how can we make that as positive? How can we make that something that we can show sort of to the outside world that it's really great? I think that's a work in progress. We live in a world where that's not necessarily valued, but we do what we can a wish at a time to make that happen in small ways and in big ways.
Absolutely. And it becomes not just a wish for the older adult, but it also becomes a memory for everyone involved,
Right.
including yourself, as you tell really great, amazing stories today, but definitely a memory for the reporter, for, the person on the
Right.
sideline just watching what's happening, or also a very intimate moment potentially between two people
Right.
at end of
Yeah.
life. So, yeah, definitely creates that camaraderie around we have a shared experience
Well, I
together.
think also the people in the facilities, like the people that are there working with the seniors day in and day out, they know them personally. Like they know them like a family member. They know more about them than their family do. And so I think for them to be part of a wish and to be there as well is a really big deal. And they're so excited to see that happen for this person, right? Like it's almost like you're vicariously sharing that joy. Um, because you know it means something to them. You know how important it is. I had a wish. So NBC does some commercials for us. Some they call them PSA spots. And there was a gentleman who was in prison and actually saw the spot on TV and sent me a letter. and he wanted a wish for his mother, who he hadn't seen in like 15 years. And he found out from her conservator that she was going to pass away before he got out. He was getting out in a year, but her Parkinson's had progressed so much that they were just kind of warning him that he was not going to see her when he gets out. And so he wanted to grant a wish for her. She was having trouble with mobility. So he wanted her to get a new pair of sneakers and a new sweatsuit and 2 dozen white roses. That was his wish. And in his letter, in the actual application, he put that he wanted her to know that her 2 sons, his brother had died of an overdose when he was younger, and he was in prison. And he put in his application that he wanted her to know that the mistakes that they made had nothing to do with her, and that she was an amazing mother and did everything right, and they loved her and learned so many things from her. And he didn't want her to leave this world until she knew that. And since he couldn't tell her that personally, because they had a no contact order, he put in this wish to make it happen. And I had the privilege of being able to do that and making that wish happen. And as you can imagine, I brought the stuff and I told her, and she just sobbed through the whole wish, right? She just cried and cried and cried. And, I was saying to her, if the sweatsuit doesn't fit or the sneakers don't fit, let me know. And but I knew she probably wasn't going to wear any of that. She was going to put it on her dresser and stare at it and just, but, again, the opportunity to do that for someone, right? That guy couldn't get there. He knew he wouldn't be able, but to be able to do that and give that message to her from him is just, I mean, such a privilege. So,
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing so many stories. Any other questions or comments from anyone joining today? Well, I'm just really grateful for the inspiration that you've been today for Twilight Wish, and certainly hope that we all would consider, no matter where you're joining us in the country, to consider opening a chapter. Or if you went on the website and realized, oh, I didn't know there was a chapter so close to me, that you reach out to that chapter director. Can you put some more information if people do have questions about a chapter in their area or opening a chapter? Who would be the best person that they connect with?
probably the foundation office, which
Okay.
would be the um, twilightwish.org.
Okay, great.
And anybody on there. I mean, you could even go to any of the staff there, or just put a general question in, and someone will contact them and give them all the info they need.
Great. Excellent. Well, Peter, any final last comments from you before we close today?
I just want to say thanks to Andrea. It was a wonderful presentation, and I think the
Yes.
thing you can see is Andrea has a lot of heart for the mission and has been on so many wishes and does this as a volunteer. So I'll just reiterate, as a nonprofit, the three things that we really look for. Obviously, we do need sponsorships. If anybody's company wants to get involved, we can always use sponsorship support. We are not receiving any government funding. Great wish applications. Andrea touched on that and where we can, generate those from and volunteer support. I know we're Sarah, you're in Maryland, but we do have 26 chapters across the country. But we grant wishes everywhere. Doesn't We don't have to have a chapter location to grant a wish. But just consider volunteering if that's something you'd like to bring into your community and build a team and start to really drill down into granting a lot of wishes locally. And like Andrea said, I'd be happy to speak with anybody. You can contact me. I'll put my email in the chat. It's
Mm.
pretty simple. It's peter@twilightwish.org. But we love to chat with somebody if they're interested in learning more.
We also have like literature. If you want flyers, if you want to put them out or have them somewhere, just contact us. We can send them to you. And you can, I mean, those are a good way for people to get some exposure as well.
Awesome. That's really great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, for your time. I appreciate everyone attending today, and look forward to seeing you in December for our last housing happenings of 2025. But I'm
Wow.
looking forward to, again, I will share this recording with folks who are not able to attend today and with all of you. But I hope everybody has a really great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.